Hey, how have you been, guys? I'm Paradoxic, and here we are with the official spoiler talk movie review for Marvel Studios' Captain Marvel. And already mentioned some stuff in the spoiler-free review. Um, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, just iconic and just awesome all round. And it was a great way to introduce Captain Marvel into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was a great kind of way to change up the whole origin story formula and to kind of introduce her in like a less generic way. Because we start off with her and she already has her powers and she's already like a member of the Kree and like a kind of warrior for the Kree. She is a part of Star Force, the kind of squadron of the Kree squadron of noble warrior heroes, as she so eloquently states in the trailer. And she's not known as Carol Danvers or even as Captain Marvel. She is known simply as Veers, because it's like an even more like a shortened version of her surname, like Danvers. It's just cut down to Veers. So they kind of they start off with her having already been a part of that for a long time, but well, for I think 6 years to be exact. But like throughout the movie, they do kind of sprinkle little flashbacks of her origin, how she actually got the powers throughout the film. Because we like the way they kind of portrayed it is that we experience it the same way she does. Like we know nothing about her past. She knows very little about her past besides from some flashbacks and stuff she gets in like her dreams and everything, and she can't really piece them together. She doesn't know what it means, but we do know that she was working for a Kree disguised as a human. So Mar-Vell is in this movie. It's not played by Jude Law. Jude Law plays Yon-Rogg, her Kree kind of commander and her mentor, or the guy teaching her to actually use her powers. And I think with the Kree, they have the kind of general kind of enhancements, like enhanced strength and speed and agility and like kind of hand-to-hand combat and whatnot. But with Veers herself, with Carol, she actually has another kind of implant in her neck that gives her a kind of photon blast as well. And we don't really see her using it that much in the movie because she wants to, but like the main kind of goal the Kree have set for her, like the main goal that Yon-Rogg and I think it's what is it called? The Supreme Intelligence. Yeah, that's it. The Supreme Intelligence, like the AI that kind of that kind of leads the Kree like across the universe and stuff. They like their kind of goal that they've set for Carol is to like kind of have self-control and to not let her emotions cloud her judgment and all that. So she has these powers, but she's not allowed to just kind of flaunt them or just use them like as like an unleashed like weapon or whatever. So she has trouble not using them because she wants to. But it's not that kind of it's not really that typical kind of like, oh, has all these amazing powers but can't use them until something important happens. Kind of is, but kind of isn't. For the most part, like from how I experienced it, like for the most part, it isn't. Because like she develops just as much like as a character without any of her powers, and she does learn a lot about her past and like a lot more about her future and like what she's been doing for 6 years since her death. But the way her life on Earth ran is that she was a test pilot for the US Air Force, known as Carol Danvers, along with her best buddy, who worked alongside her in the Air Force, known as Maria Lambo, and she was doing a kind of, I think it was kind of like a covert kind of a test run mission. Like she was flying a new plane designed by Mar-Vell. Like at the time, Mar-Vell on Earth is known as, I think, what was it? Wendy Lawson, Dr. Wendy Lawson. So I think she was like an aeronautics engineer or something, but she created a new plane with like a new fueling system, like a new energy core, that didn't really work as well because it worked fine actually, but it was because Yon-Rogg actually caught up to them. And I think, bear in mind, by the way, I forgot to mention it in this and kind of in the spoiler-free review as well, but this is after my first time actually having watched it. So this is like from a completely fresh kind of viewing. So I'm either gonna forget some stuff, or I'm gonna like misremember some stuff. So I'm gonna remember what happened at certain points, but I'm not gonna remember it correctly. So bear with me. I might make some mistakes here, but I think Yonrog like kind of caught up to them, like unbeknownst to Carol at the time that he was actually Yonrog and stuff, and then he started firing at them, and then Carol's plane went down, and Marvel actually sustained more injuries than she did, so she kind of gave her like some advice to actually, you know, survive and shit. And then she tried to shoot out the energy core, because the energy core is what Yonrog was after. And then she tried to shoot that out, but then Yonrog killed her before she had the chance. And then Carol shot at the energy core, but then, as well as from being like thrown back off her feet from the explosion, she also absorbed the power from the energy core into herself. So that kind of transfusion happened. I believe that that was what the transfusion was. I think like blue like a blood transfusion was there at some point. I think that was maybe once she got to Hala, and Hala is the main like world, like the main like capital like location of the Kree. That's where they all predominantly exist. But I think once they took her back to Hala, that's when the blood transfusion started. But the main one when she got her powers and everything, or at least when the main kind of when she got the powers, that's when that happened. But then the DNA was actually taken into a later time. Maybe I can't really remember it like 100% accurately. So that stuff happened, and again, that stuff shows up a lot later in the film as kind of as a plot point, but also as like again as kind of like seeing the origin story unfold at the same time and in the same way that Carol herself sees it. But yeah, again, like Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, nothing short of a great casting choice and nothing short of a great performance in the movie. She really nailed the character really well, and I think she pulled off. Especially what I loved about her in this movie is the relationship she has with other characters. Like Nick as well, she meets as soon as she crash lands onto Earth. That was a fun one to see. Her and Nick Fury, that is a very, very fun one to see, because obviously we see Nick Fury in a very, very different time than we're used to as well. This is not present day Nick Fury, because present day Nick Fury got off the face of the Earth. So yeah, so this is like very much, again, the movie's set in the 90s, so it's years and years before anything Avengers related happens. And I think that's actually like one of the interesting kind of stylizations of character that we got from Nick Fury. The fact that this is not a man this is a man who's meeting aliens for the first time. But up until now, all he's done is like political espionage and covert spy stuff. Like up until now, he didn't even know aliens existed, and his reaction to such things is just perfect. It's very much Nick Fury style, but also kind of normal freaked out civilian style. And he's got both sets of eyes as well. And I will get onto this character in a minute, but each and every single person out there who said that Goose the cat, the cat in the trailers, would be the reason Fury loses his eye, pat yourself on the back. Just go ahead and pat yourself on the fucking back, because that is exactly what the fuck happens. Like, I thought, given how much of that theory blew up, it would be too good to be true. I feel like chances are it might be more of like a personal moment for him, because of the way he says it in The Winter Soldier. Like, last time I trusted someone, I lost a fucking eye. Like, the way he says, I thought like, it might be more of a serious moment, but no, this is literally how he loses his eye. The cat scratches his eye out. Like, he's literally holding the cat up, and he's literally holding the cat in front of him, trying to be all cute with it, and just just being all Nick Fury with it, and then all of a sudden the cat just lashes out and just scratches scratches his eye. So yeah, everyone who had that theory, just pat yourself on the fucking back. That actually happened. But I will get to Goose in a second. But her relationship with Samuel L. Jackson, and Samuel L. Jackson, first of all, he so it's very much a different kind of period of time with him. So he's like, he hasn't come across anything like this before, and he for the most part he doesn't know how to react, but at the same time he knows this is something that normal police can't handle and SHIELD itself can't handle, but they at least have to try. they at least have to try or at least he himself has to try. He doesn't really go so much the extra length as including Shield in all of this, but his commander as well, like the guy Ben Mendelsohn plays as well, like he kind of gets drawn into it, and there are honestly some hysterical moments there. Like, I think there's a moment where Coulson is being impersonated by a Skrull in the car as they're chasing after Carol in the train. They're chasing after her, but then Coulson, the Coulson next to him in the passenger seat is revealed to be a Skrull, so he gets into a bit of a kerfuffle with him, kills him, and then has the freaks out once he sees, because as soon as the Skrull dies, the shape kind of they shapeshift back into their natural selves, as shapeshifters probably should. So as soon as that happens, he gets the body shipped back to a morgue or something at Shield for like examination. And he finds out, yep, this is a real life, like real alien. There is a serious moment there, and there is a funny moment there. The funny moment is the fact that like him and his kind of superior kind of, like, because the blanket's only covering half the body, like from the waist down. So after having examined the top half and seeing that, okay, this alien looks like this and everything, they kind of like hesitate for a few seconds, and then Nick just like lifts up the sheet to peep down to what the South Pole looks like, or at least the southern area. Probably shouldn't call it a pole, but it's what the southern like nether regions look like. And they don't really like, they're not really admiring it, they're not really shocked at it, they're just like, okay, yeah, aliens have junk too, sure. But that one honestly had just my entire theatre just roaring with laughter, like the fact that they actually went that extra mile. But like the humor in this film was actually balanced like really, really well, and it's comparable, I guess, to Guardians of the Galaxy humor, because especially since quite a bit of the humor is based around like Carol's kind of naivete as a human, and when she comes to Earth, like, it is for the most part pretty much how I imagined it would be like if Peter Quill went back to Earth as well, because he was taken from there as a child. He still knows a lot of human pop culture, because again his mother was just crazy into music, and he got all of her favorite hits, and he knows about Footloose, the Kevin Bacon movie, yeah, that one. So he is fairly like pop culture savvy, but not like not on present day stuff. But if he ever did come back to Earth, and I feel like like it would be the same situation for him. Like, he'd be looking around, like wondering what the fuck was going on, like what all this new tech is. He'd probably swap out his headphones for some AirPods or some shit. But with Kara, obviously the first time we see her coming out to Earth, she just comes crashing through the roof of a Blockbuster video building. So further just like emphasizing that yes, this movie does take place in the 90s. And there's a Radio Shack as well. Like, she asks like a police officer like where she can find communications equipment to help like contact Yonrog, and like he points her over to a Radio Shack, and she actually uses tech from there to actually get to holographically communicate with Yonrog. So and it shows that she's tech savvy as well, which is great to see, and I want to see more of that in Endgame, like her actually being tech savvy with, like, if she does run into Tony in space or whatever the fuck happens, I want to see more of her being like using some actual like intellect and shit. But yeah, so where did I get to? But like I feel like in that like there were some scenes that kind of gave me vibes from other Marvel movies, and some moments that gave me like character moments that gave me like other character vibes. Like Carol as a whole, she's a very, very likable and very, very admirable character as well, and she's like her kind of trademark personality traits would be like wit and charisma and sarcasm, like all three traits that you would like predominant, like usually having watched the MCU for 10 years, you usually kind of like identify with Tony Stark, and it does remind you of him, yes, but you do know that it's still not him, and I think that's one of the things they did really well about actually executing this character. Like, they gave her traits similar to characters you've seen before, but at the end of the day, they still help you realize, like, yeah, she's like all these other characters, but she's still Carol Danvers. She's still Captain Marvel. She's not like a copycat of Tony or a copycat of Steve or anyone else. Like, she is still her own person. She has her own story that we're watching, and she has her own journey. So she is still her own person. But she does remind us of all these other characters. But at the end of the day, it's still her own personality that we're kind of interacting with and everything. And I think that's like something that the writers especially really did well. And like with that as well, I think her wit and her charisma is what really kind of boosts her chemistry with the other actors as well, especially with Nick as well, since he's like known to be fairly witty and sarcastic sometimes. Like, they get along really well, and I think even from watching the press tours, like, you can just see like Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson, they got along really well on and off camera. So that kind of that translation was very, very clear and very fluid and everything. So yeah. But I still can't believe Samuel L. Jackson actually lost his eye to that fucking cat. Like, I thought it might be Ben Mendelsohn's character that he loses his eye to, like someone he trusts, like maybe someone inside S.H.I.E.L.D. who like impersonates a Skrull. That was another common theory, like, oh, maybe someone, like, up until we saw the cat in the trailer, that was everyone's theory. Like, oh, maybe there's someone inside S.H.I.E.L.D. that like a Skrull infiltrates S.H.I.E.L.D. and like they get caught up in a fight with Nick Fury and then they stab his eye or something. Maybe that's what happened. And then the cat came along, and then this Twitter and everything was blew up saying, I'm calling it, that cat is the one who betrays Fury. That cat is the one who tears out Nick Fury's eye. Didn't tear it out, but because it's still fresh in the socket, but it did blind him. It is the reason we see the iconic Nick patch on Nick Fury, eye patch on Nick Fury. So yeah, again, all of those people, just pat yourselves on the back. You really got us. I think, and it's those kinds of theories that I'm afraid to follow. But because like on the one hand, if I don't follow it, chances are I'm gonna be wrong about anything else. But if I do follow it, I might just be jumping into the bandwagon. Like, it just seems too good to be true. But at the end of the day, it's like, so it was the same thing with Endgame. Like, everyone said, like, oh, Tony said it in Age of Ultron, Doctor Strange said it in Infinity War. Like, we're in the Endgame now. It's gonna be Endgame, and I think. There was like Annihilation, there was Avengers Forever. I think I had the theory that it was going to be Avengers Reborn, because like new members are coming in and shit. But no, Endgame was the one. And I still have like this kind of running joke going with a friend of mine that imagine if Marvel are going to pull like another plot twist on us. Like, oh yeah, it's Endgame for all the promotion, but when the movie comes out, we're going to change it to Annihilation. Imagine that. That's going to be really fun. Water break. Yep. But yeah, that theory, that was the prevailing theory. The cat is the one. I think, and I don't even know if it was out of malice. I don't know if it was just trying to get Fury to leave it alone, because Fury was coddling that thing so fucking much. And I mean, even beyond like so Goose is the cat is Goose the cat. It had like another name or something, I think. From the comics I read, it was called Chewie, but I think they named it to Goose as like a Top Gun reference or something. But Goose the cat is not a human cat. Obviously not a human cat. It's not a cat from Earth. That is a better way of phrasing it. It's not a cat from Earth. It is a flurkin. It's a flurkin. So, from what I've read, it's a cat where on the outside it's a cat, but on the its insides are literally a pocket dimension to tentacles and shit. So it can open up its head to a massive amount and just let tentacles fly out of its mouth and grab people and eat them. And that's exactly what it does in this fucking movie. Every single scene this cat is in is either hilarious or awesome or cute. There is no in-between for either of them, but regardless of any of those, this cat is a fucking scene stealer, especially the one with Fury, like when he scratches his eye out. Every scene with this cat in it is every time this cat is on screen, it is a scene stealer. It is a scene stealer. It just steals the spotlight from anyone else and just shows off its cuteness or its intergalactic badassery. Or interdimensional badassery, I should say. But it is really really cool. I think I don't remember I don't know if they actually said where it came from, but it just like popped up at one point. And I think like Carol knows Goose, and I think Goose probably knows Carol. But the cat showed up in, I think, the Shield headquarters that they were at, looking for information on Carol's past, and then Fury wouldn't leave it alone. And I think even after that first moment when the tentacles came flying out, they still Fury was freaked out. Like, I'm gonna pick you up, but you better not eat me. That's my one request. And then there was a scene where the cat just wouldn't work at all. They came into contact with some Kree soldiers. And after having seen what Goose can do, Fury was just like, "Well, you're gonna regret trying to come after us when we reveal our secret weapon. Go, Goosey, go!" The cat did nothing. The cat did literally nothing. It just sat there, just being coddled, like just held up by Fury, like Rafiki holding up Simba at Pride Rock, and just like tried to jump out of Fury's arms, and then just switch sides. It literally just switched sides. So that was hilarious. Again, every scene with Goose had my theatre just roaring with laughter. It was that funny. But yeah, so that is Goose the cat. Back to Nick, anyhow. But yeah, so Nick, in this, he is very much being introduced to a hidden world of sorts. Like, he is very much used to his life of kind of norm, like societal norm, and he's very much used to like the work he's usually handed, and he is a veteran Shield agent, and he is kind of he did say that, you know, he's been working for so long that, you know, he was considering just retiring and hanging it all up until he ran into Carol. Like, Carol was presumably like his last kind of call to the field, and then that's when everything changed. And you know, it's like at first he does kind of greet her with his kind of typical Nick Fury kind of sarcasm and whatnot. But then after almost immediately being attacked by a Skrull, he does kind of come to terms with, okay, so this kind of intergalactic shit is going down, and Earth is caught pretty much in the middle of it. Great. This is pretty much just another 9 to 5. Pretty much just another 9 to 5. And I think from the get-go, it is kind of a mixture of him, like, you know, being caught in the middle of it, but like, you know, he's not struggling. It's a mixture of him struggling to go along with it, but also going along with it because he knows it's important and he knows it means big consequences and everything. So, you know, because of that, he's kind of developing along with it as we speak. And, you know, there's this movie directly ties into something like Iron Man or even the Avengers, like, and it does so in very good and very understandable fashion. So technically speaking, Carol is the first Avenger. Technically speaking, like, you know, her codename in this is literally Avenger. And, you know, like, for the most part, he does react to most situations in classic kind of Nick Fury fashion, like pulling a gun out and, like, you know, like interrogation or like some kind of witty sarcastic response or just trying to analyze the situation, whatever. But, you know, he isn't a superhero or anything, like, or like enhanced in any way, but he's like in this he shows that he does still know how to handle a situation. But Samuel L. Jackson has said that he doesn't, like, he's not going to be in Endgame. Like, for one thing, he's been dusted, so he's going to be one of the people brought back towards the end, or at whatever point they're brought back at. But also, like, even once he's brought back, and if Thanos is still alive, then he's going to be like worse than useless in such a situation. He's not going to be able to just fire like a pistol or something at him and just hope for the best. So, you know, I think like a movie like this is something where, you know, he's still able to help guide Carol on Earth along with her friend Maria, whilst you'd hope that Yon-Rogg, played by Jude Law, her mentor, would actually be able to help guide her on Hala, on the Kree homeworld. But when you get far enough into the movie, you realise that's not exactly what happens. That's not what unfolds. But yeah, and the so like the Skrulls and the Kree, I went into this kind of assuming, well, not just assuming, but having read up on a bit of like kind of comic book history. I kind of went in kind of thinking that the Kree were the good guys and the Skrulls were the bad guys, and it was even insinuated that way in the trailer. Like Nick was just like, so let me get this straight. So the Skrulls are the bad guys, and the Kree are the normal, the noble warrior heroes and everything. So the Skrulls were kind of portrayed out to be the villains in this, or the antagonists and everything. But once you get far enough into the movie, it's like they just pull like a complete plot twist on you. Like the Skrulls, they aren't actually the bad guys. Like the Skrulls, if anything, in this, they're the victims and stuff. And I think from what I remember, like the Skrulls, like when she was talking to Talos on in like outside Maria's shed, she said why should I believe a word you say? You're a Skrull. The Skrulls are terrorists, and you've killed innocent people. And then Talos corrects her, saying, actually no, we're refugees. The first kind of like the opening, you see like they travel to a planet to rescue one of their one of their Kree informants who's tried to infiltrate like a Skrull kind of territory, and the Skrull kind of start attacking them, and you think, oh, they're just taking them out of hostility, but no, that's actually kind of like their refuge. They were taking refuge on that planet, and they've been taking refuge on other planets as well, and they are refugees. So it's like they've been hunted down mercilessly by the Kree, but they themselves are not bad people. So like I think as far as I follow it, the Skrulls we see in this film are not all the Skrulls there are, but the Skrulls we see in this film are actually refugees of war. So they're not actually the bad guys. If they do kill in any way, they are killing in self-defense. They're killing to protect their families and the people around them. And Talos especially, he's not explicitly a bad guy. He has done some antagonistic and like villainous things, but he's not out to kill anyone out of like malice or any kind of like explicitly nefarious purpose. But he is kind of just out there, like he has a family to get back to. Like the end goal, the end game for him is to actually get back to his family and to fight and like to get them to a home, because he reveals that the Skrulls are refugees, and as a result, the only thing they've been looking for, especially in recent times, is a home. And Wendy Lawson, who plays Mar-Vell in this movie, she is a rogue kind of Kree warrior. Like she wasn't like the other Kree. She wasn't trying to kill them. She actually went to Earth, and she worked on a project to try and find the Kree a home, to try and get them away from, to find the Skrulls a home, to get them away from the Kree and away from the war. And I assume when the Kree found out about this, that's when Yon-Rogg was actually sent to kill her, and to actually kind of take away whatever intel she might have, take away whatever weapons she might have, or like anything, like any proof or evidence of her project. And so it's like she was shot down by Yon-Rogg in the plane that Carol was flying her in. So Mar-Vell was actually Mar-Vell. I think she was posing as like a human engineer called Dr. Wendy Lawson. Would Doctor be accountable for engineer? I don't know, but she played a human called. She was disguised as a human called Wendy Lawson, who had a personal connection to Carol as well as Maria, and she. So yeah, she was helping the Skrulls to kind of escape, like the refugee Skrulls escape, and she was killed by Yon-Rogg. But she is also the appearance that the Supreme Intelligence on Hala actually takes the appearance of, because Yon-Rogg says the Supreme Intelligence is an advanced higher being, like the true the true form cannot be comprehended or handled by any like mere beings, like extraterrestrial or not. Like it can't be handled by like other beings. So like everyone's like it takes on a memory from each individual's encounter, and then takes on that appearance. So for Yon-Rogg, it doesn't really say who. Like they don't really say who like he sees, like he hasn't told anyone, not even Carol. But for Carol, it does take on Wendy Lawson's on Marvel's form, which is, looking back, it seems a little bit manipulative. Given that she was like she was a former kind of Kree kind of like a member of the Kree, and now given that she has such a personal connection with her, it's using her form to kind of communicate and to kind of relay all this kind of wisdom onto Carol. And the Supreme Intelligence was the one that gave her the little neck implant and the photon blast that she has. So, you know, we do later find out that she is also the kind of the head of like all the more nefarious plans that Star Force and the Kree have. So it's a good thing Carol broke out of that trance that they put her in towards the end. But yeah, that was like that was a kind of a twist I wasn't really expecting, given how like of all the kind of interpretations of the media that I've seen of the Skrulls, like in animated stuff, and even in games, you know, it's always seemed that, you know, the Skrulls are the bad guys and the Kree are like maybe the good guys, or maybe just like the guys fighting back. Maybe not specifically the good guys, but just the guys fighting back. But it is shown in this film that the Skrulls are actually just, you know, like they've been kind of showcased as bad by the Kree, and while they can be bad, like the ones we see in this one are not like inherently bad. Like they are just trying to defend themselves and escape from this war, but the Kree just won't let them. So we do see how that kind of a twist also affects Carol, because now she knows that she was abducted from her world, given all these powers, and then just kind of used as a weapon of war, in a war that she didn't want to fight, and you know, like fighting people that she originally thought were killers and monsters and like the enemy, essentially. But then she finds out all of this information and she kind of changes, and that's actually one of the things I loved as well. Like her suit when she starts out is very, very symbolic of how she's a member of Star Force and how she like belongs to the Kree. And then once she kind of once she makes all these revelations and discovers all this kind of knowledge, she kind of strays away from that. She becomes her own kind of hero, kind of like reminding me of how Steve kind of walked away from the government and like stopped being Captain America. And, you know, like, because Captain America was very symbolic of being an Avenger and being like someone who fought for the country and for freedom, but also Captain America, like he was kind of he had a very, very noticeable and symbolic connection to the government and protecting the government's laws and ideals as well. But then once all of that stuff went to absolute shit, he kind of walked away from that, and he still stood for the same ideals, but he just knew he wasn't the same person anymore. He dropped the shield, ripped off the star, the suit got a whole lot darker, there were patches, it was worn out, and you know, he didn't really have the classic Captain America look anymore, and he knew that wasn't who he was anymore. So with this, it kind of reminds me of the same, except with like Carol's suit, you can actually change the colors, and you know, when that scene came up, like we see various different kind of color combinations, and I don't know how many of them are actually callbacks to the various suits she has in the comics. I mean, besides from red, gold, and blue, I don't really know what other color combinations she has, but you know, I think there was one where it was green, white, and black, and there was red, white, and blue, I think. I don't know, there was a bunch of it, but then after, I think it was Maria's kind of it was Maria's daughter who was changing the colors for her, and then, you know, like Carol looked at her shirt with the golden kind of bird and the red and the blue surrounding it and said, that one's a cool color combination. So she changed to that, and then as the camera zooms out, we see the classic red, white, and gold, red, blue, and gold, like stuff like that we see in the posters and the comics, just like the actual proper kind of color combination that the suit should have. So yeah, and I think it was even said that the green one that she has is just the one that she starts off with, and that she does eventually actually change to the proper red and blue suit. So that definitely does happen, and it is definitely an awesome moment. But yeah, no, she does kind of stray away from those kind of ideals, and that scene as well, like when she is captured by Yon-Rogg, and she's kind of bound up in those little like those like wires, and she's like in the virtual reality where the Supreme Intelligence resides. She gets her power, like she doesn't get her power, so to speak, but she's kind of being like punished by the Supreme Intelligence, and afterwards she is like constantly told that she keeps falling because she thinks she's better than she is, and she's trying too hard too quickly, and she's she's not as strong as she thinks. And I think that analogy is actually something that like was really, really well done. The way that they show that reflecting across Carol's entire life, even before the plane crash, like even when she was a little girl, like she'd be doing something like when she was going go-karting, or just doing something, and she'd always be going too far. Like to other people, she'd be going too fast, and going all in, like getting way in over, like getting over, like in over her head. That was the phrase I'm looking for. In over her head about everything she was doing, and like thinking she was stronger, and like it was, it was essentially just her having like the faith in herself that she could do it, and then everyone else around her saying that she couldn't. And in some cases, it from most of the cases that we could see, it was because she was a woman, and especially because it was like earlier in like the early 90s and early like 70s, 80s, like early 80s kind of time period. Because of that, she's like her and Maria actually especially faced a lot of oppression, and even Maria mentioned like when they first became pilots for the US Air Force, the best that Carol and Maria could get were being test pilots, and that was because they were women. Like no one would let them really like fly in a profession or a position higher than that. And so like being a test pilot was the best thing that they could get. They couldn't actually fly in any actual kind of military kind of missions or anything like that. But then you see how like she tries go-karting, she turns too fast, and she like crashes over a pile of hay, like some pile of like hay, and she does some rope climbing, and she tries swinging from one rope to another. She falls from that. So every time she does something, she like to other people, she tries too hard, and then she falls, and people keep telling her like you can't do this, you're not good enough for this yet, you're a woman, you're weak, and stuff like that, like constantly pushing her down. And then as soon as the Supreme Intelligence reminds her of this, like you're only human, like in their eyes, it's not even the fact that she's a woman, it's the fact that she's human still. As soon as she says that, she's like, yeah, you know what, I am only human. And then that is enough for her to just be like, she's done with people telling her that she can't do something, or that she's too weak for something, or that she should just slow down. Like her motto in this film is the same as the kind of tagline for the film, like higher, further, faster. That is only that is the only way she'll go. She'll only fly higher, she'll only fly further, and she'll only go faster. So that kind of like sticking by that kind of mantra is what helps her unleash her true Captain Marvel form. So she, in virtual reality, like she just pops off that little neck implant thing, and she just just bursts out of the virtual reality. And even in reality, she just untangles the wires from her, stands up Super Saiyan mode, just glowing like a bright fucking light, and just takes out pretty much everyone. And from then on, it is literally her just being unleashed. Like she is now a powerhouse. She's like unleashed fully and properly, and she is just just firing photon beams left and right, blowing ships up, just being a badass queen, just all year round. And we see Captain Marvel at her, if anything, at her peak, I'd say, because now she's unleashed her powers, but she hasn't fully trained with them. But even then, like, it's not like she's just like spiraling out of control. Like, she still knows how to do it because she's had the basic training. But it's just that to them, because to Yon Rog and to the Supreme Intelligence, because she had all these memories and she was curious about the memories, that made her weak, like wanting to know about her past, like wanting to regain that emotional connection to her old life. That made her weak to them, so they kind of they gave her the powers, but they kind of held back on her using them until she could actually prove herself without them. Which again, it seemed at the time it seemed like a form of manipulation. But it's like, if anything, it does prove as like a bigger kind of like a development stepping stone for her, which was really, really cool to see. But seeing her unleashed for the first time, pretty damn awesome moment, pretty damn epic moment. But yeah, and then she still has that helmet with the mohawk as well, so that was really, really cool to see. But yeah, like seeing her unleashed for the first time, it was just it's a sight I'll never forget, and it's one of the things that makes me want to go back for a second viewing at any possible time. But we will. It just goes to show what we'll see from her. Like we'll see that and more from her in Endgame. We will see her going toe to toe and probably fist to fist with Thanos. With all those photon blasts and kicks and punches and flight and everything all at once. So yeah, okay, but yeah, so her relationship with Nick and her relationship with Maria as well. So Maria Lambo is her human ally, and a friend from quite an early part in her life, or like when I'd say when she first joined the US Air Force and she was going through her training and stuff, like she was there. Like Maria has always been the human constant in her life. Like from the start, she's always been the very best friend she's had, and their relationship is like not a copy, but it's pretty much like an exact kind of duplicate, and a very, very good and enjoyable duplicate of Steve and Bucky's relationship. Like Maria, she's not there for any kind of plot armor or anything. She's not there for any plot development. She's there as her own character, and she is there to support Carol. And for her, it's an incredibly hard time as well, because as far as she knows, like Carol died in a botched kind of test, like flight test that the US Air Force then tried to cover up, because it wasn't like an officially documented experiment or anything like that. So her friend died 6 years ago, and then her death was covered up. And then 6 years later, she just pops back up, like almost as if nothing happened. But in Carol's defense, like all this shit did go down. So that happened. But their chemistry as well was really, really good, and it's very easy to see that they are best friends in real life and as characters in the MCU. And I think it's hard not to ship them. It's hard not to ship them because you kind of see where that chemistry originates and how it flows with Steve and Bucky, and tens of millions of people ship them. But it's like I would say I've never been able to kind of ship Steve and Bucky in that sense. Only as brothers, and well, I've been able to like pair them up, like see that kind of brotherly bond between them. But some people see like a romantic thing between them. If that's what you see, then more power to you. But I don't really see that kind of like. There is a strong sense of love between them, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's like romantic, because simply because it just doesn't really. Well, for one thing, Marvel doesn't have the balls to pull it off on the big screen, but also because it just doesn't really, because it just doesn't seem like I feel like him and Natasha is a more kind of a more organic kind of thing. Like with Bucky, obviously he would do anything for Bucky. He has done lots of things for Bucky, but at the same time, it's like that's all because Bucky is now officially his last currently not living connection to the war and to his original life in the 40s that he has left. And Bucky was always there from they've been friends since childhood. That kind of thing is incredibly hard to erase or change. It only grows and it only develops. Not to say that they shouldn't be in a relationship, but it's I feel like the way the Russos especially have been working it, it's there is a kind of familial love between him and Bucky, but the romantic love between him and the romantic kind of subtext between him and Natasha is ever so slightly stronger. But hey, look, I'm still a Stucky supporter, so don't sharpen your pitchforks, don't light up your flaming torches. I'm still a Stucky supporter, but Maria and Maril. Yeah, that would work, right? Maria and Maril, or Danvers and Rambo, or Rambo and Danvers. I don't know. If you guys can come up with a good ship name for them, then by all means. But I do find it quite easy to ship Maria and Carol, simply because they have such a good kind of close friendship, and because they simply get along so well, and their chemistry is just honestly off the charts, and they know each other that well and they get along that well, so it's hard not to kind of pair them up as friends or as whatever. But yeah, again, I am a Stucky supporter, but I'm also a Dambo Ranvers supporter, Marrow supporter. Yeah. But yeah, I have kind of started to ship Carol and Maria together. So, well, not kind of, I'm being modest. I've really hardly started to like really badly started to ship them together. But anywho, Maria is an awesome character to see, and she has a daughter who calls Carol Auntie Carol. Yeah, Steve and Bucky don't have kids. I mean, I don't doubt if they did, then they'd probably call the other like Uncle Bucky or Uncle Steve or something. But you know, with Maria's kid, she does call her Auntie Carol, and Carol calls her Lieutenant Trouble. Yeah, Lieutenant Trouble. I had this odd theory that, you know, it would be revealed that maybe it does seem far-fetched now, and it does seem implausible now, but like while watching it, I had this theory that, you know, obviously Lieutenant Trouble is the nickname Carol has for her, but then maybe Nick might call her Lieutenant Trouble, or he might ask her what her name is as he's saying goodbye to her, and she might just say Riri Lambo, like as in like the girl who becomes the new kind of Iron Woman, if you will, Iron Woman, Iron Girl, I don't know, Iron something. But thinking back, that now seems quite a bit far-fetched and implausible, and they also wouldn't bring a character like that this early into the MCU. Because I think if they're bringing anything like that into the MCU, I think the earliest they're like the most they're willing to bring in at this point in time is probably Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, because Brie Larson wants Kamala Khan into the MCU. Kevin Feige wants to do a Kamala Khan movie if Captain Marvel does get greenlit for a sequel, which it most likely will with Phase 4 coming in. But, you know, if they do that, then they both want Kamala Khan to actually come in. So that is also going to be a very, very high point in this universe. But Maria, that's a great relationship she has. Yon-Rogg, when Jude Law was first announced to be starring in this film alongside her, a lot of people thought that he would be Mar-Vell. I think those rumors were shut down shortly before a while back, like not too far back, and he was actually revealed to be Yon-Rogg, who is the mentor and kind of the mentor to like a direct mentor to Carol, to Veers, but also like the commander in chief of Star Force, and he's like the main dude in charge. And then I think the way I see it after that is that, you know, Carol is pretty much his kind of second in command. Like if something were to happen to him, Carol likely would take up like the next kind of like commandable position and everything. So yeah, but Yon-Rogg, again, like along with the Supreme Intelligence, he is the one who tried to kind of shield Carol from her human life and from her past and her memories and from the truth as well of what the Kree were doing to the Skrulls. And you know, like towards the end, it like we did see in the flashbacks how he killed Mar-Vell and how he took Carol from her home on Earth and after the energy core explosion. So a lot of stuff was revealed, and he was revealed to be, like, along with Star Force, he was revealed to be a more kind of antagonistic character. But in the end, he didn't die. And I think, besides from I think the mentor turned evil thing, I kind of I was reminded of how they pulled the same twist with Obadiah Stane from Iron Man 1. Not copy and pasted, but it reminded me of how that stuff went down as well. But that reminded me of that. But then he's also the like, as far as I'm aware, he's also the only mentor in the MCU to not die. Like he's the only like mentor that the main characters had so far. That's because like with Tony, Yinsen died, Steve, Erskine died, Thor, Odin died more than once. Well, no, not more than once. Just pretty much just once. With Scott. Actually, no. With Scott, Hank's still alive. So, and yet another mentor to actually live on and not die. So Hank's still alive. With Doctor Strange, the Ancient One did die. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so besides from Hank, like Yonrog is the only other mentor to not die, and he didn't really come close to it at all, but he like towards the end of it, he was kind of sent back to Harlow with a message from Carol saying that, you know, like again, like she's not fighting their war anymore. She's gonna find a home for the Skrulls, and then she's gonna come back and finish what she started, and, you know, like end everything. From what I remember, that is. So she sent him back with that message. So I don't know if we're gonna see the Skrulls popping up in Endgame or in a future Captain Marvel movie, like with the Vengeance, like the Kree even. I don't know why I'm getting all these words mixed up. But the Kree maybe coming back with a vengeance or something, like because of that, or they might try and stop her from helping the Skrulls. But that is pretty much how that stuff unfolds. And, you know, Yonrog, he does very much seem like the kind of, he very much seems like that kind of tough love kind of mentor as well. Like, you know, like he's like some of his lines, like, you know, you come far in your years of training, and you've come far since you've begun this whole journey, but you're still not as strong as you think, and you need to, giving her all this advice. He seems like the kind of person who's like, you know, the whole point is that she's meant to be emotionless, and she's not meant to hold any bonds or any attachments. So he's like, you know, like, let go of your past, stop thinking emotionally, don't let it cloud your judgment. Like that kind of stuff, like I feel like we've seen before, but it's still it's still fairly fresh, and it's still fairly new and good to see, since we haven't seen that kind of thing in a long time. So that's still kind of an interesting character aspect on his point. But, you know, overall, she does, like honestly, Brie Larson, she just has amazing, like, chemistry with every character that she's on screen with, and, you know, she pulls off that kind of interaction very, very well. And, you know, it's honestly, like, the balance of humor and drama and action in this movie is just really well balanced overall. It's like, you know, they know to keep the serious moments serious, and, like, obviously if a character's showcasing a bit of naivete, then they kind of take advantage in the comedy of that, but they don't really ruin many serious moments with, like, shoehorned comedy or shoehorned kind of, like, jokes or anything like that. So, you know, they know to keep serious moments serious, and to you know, like to kind of lever in some humor in, like, quieter situations. But, you know, like, there were some seriously funny moments in this, and, you know, so especially like when Maria was asking Taylor, when Talos said to Maria, like, you know, like, young lady, I have the ability to get into places that I really that I really shouldn't be in. And she's like, you call me young lady one more time, and my foot is going to go up somewhere where it isn't. And the scene's like quiet for like 5 seconds, like, and then Talos is like, should I guess where it's going or something? Like, is it going up into the sky or something? But, you know, that kind of naivete, those scenes have a fair, balanced amount of humor, and the delivery, again, the delivery of each of these lines is actually perfect. And again, like, that kind of stuff works really well. But for the more serious scenes, like when Carol, like, finds out what really happened that day of the crash, and, like, her memories start piecing together, and, like, the revelations that just get unveiled, that stuff is perfectly balanced, and as all things should be. And I'm sorry, I could not finish that sentence without adding those few words on. I'm sorry. But, you know, that stuff is actually really well done and really well executed, and I think that just adds to the movie overall. And this movie has a lot of kind of like a lot of flair and color, and it's, like, very kind of sparkly, like, not sparkly, like spunky, I guess you could say. Or, like, it's very, like, in terms of personality, the movie has a lot, in my opinion, and it's very kind of bubbly, and it really showcases Carol in such a light. Like, she knows she's good, and she's kind of used to telling her what she like telling her what to do and what she can't do. But at the same time, by the end of the movie, she's done with that shit. She's done with letting people tell her what to do and what she can't do, and she's making her own decisions. She becomes her own hero, and she strays away from, like, the ideals that she thought she fought for, but then, you know, strives for new ones and better ones. And she becomes a better like version of herself because of it. So because of that, I think like the journey showcased in the movie is actually really well written as well, which just makes me more excited to see her in Endgame. But yeah, Goose again. Can't get over Goose. He's just that cat is just one of the funniest I've ever seen, and didn't even have any lines. Like meow was the only line that cat had. Like maybe in all of the scenes it had, it probably only said it once or twice. But meow was the only line that cat had, and it still nailed it. And I think one thing I will point out about Cat was the fact that, because there's already a commander, because Yon-Rogg already exists, and she's also adapted to following under his rule and under his commands, she's not showcased as a leader, but I do believe she does definitely still have some leadership qualities, and especially it would be impossible to have actually worked under Yon-Rogg for so long and not picked up something. So I do believe that when the time comes for her to replace Steve as the leader of the Avengers and replace him as the captain, Captain Marvel has easily become like my... I feel bad saying this, but Steve Rogers, I love him. I love him to bits. I love Captain America. I love my boy up there. I love my boy, but Carol Danvers Captain Marvel has become my new favorite captain. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry, pal. You always hold a special place in my heart, but Carol, she's just something new. She's something different, and she's just something fresh, and she's something cool. She's someone cool. Not to say Cap isn't cool, but still, it's Captain Marvel. Like I get attached to characters way too easily, so that's why Steve's death is going to be the death of me. But if anything, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If anything, I don't want Steve to die. I want him to retire with Natasha. Those two things: retirement with Natasha. So that way he doesn't have to die, but he can just live on the rest of his days with Natasha, with a baby, with whatever. And then Carol can actually take up her place on the Avengers. And that's actually another point I will get to soon enough. But I do believe she possesses those leadership qualities, and she is essentially leading the Skrulls into a better life and finding them a new home. And then when she comes back into Endgame, she will be, she will actually be like a co-leader. She will be co-leading the Avengers with Steve. And chances are, if all the theories about like the team splitting up to find the Infinity Stones at different points in time are correct, if the time travel thing is correct, then Steve could lead one faction to find the Infinity Stones and to find half of them, and Captain Marvel could lead, Carol could lead another faction to find another half of them, and once they're all ready to fight Thanos, they can all do it together. Just one massive sect of Avengers, or just one massive group of Avengers. Maybe even the dusted ones brought back to life can all come back and just pummel Thanos into the ground together. But I'm just saying it. I don't want Steve to die, but I do now have confidence knowing that we have a new captain to lead the Avengers. So yeah, don't blow that out of context. I'm not saying I want Steve to die. I'm just saying I have confidence knowing that we do have someone to take up his position, someone that we actually have confidence and faith in that can live up to the role. Someone who we already know from watching her solo movie that she is bloody awesome. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, again, she didn't explicitly get the chance to showcase such qualities, but I do believe she has them, and even even without that, she is still she is very much portrayed as a headstrong, determined, and kind of a person with a lot of willpower, and she's very, very driven and determined to get what she wants, and in the third act, that is what she is. Her willpower and her determination is what gets her through that kind of the neck implant and the Supreme Intelligence's kind of manipulation and everything, and it's what allows her to actually fully unleash her power and be as badass as she is. So again, just iconic scenes, just badassery all around, and I want a scene like that for her entrance in Infinity War, in Endgame, the same way Thor rolled up in Wakanda to the Avengers theme. I want that to in Endgame. I want her beating Thanos to the beat of the Avengers theme. I want that to be her entrance. Well, in the fight, that is. But yeah, so that's that stuff. And I think what else? I mean, Coulson. We didn't really see much of Coulson, so I think I am a little bit disappointed in that. But I do feel like Nick did even explicitly say that, you know, Coulson is still a new guy. He is still very new to this, and Nick himself was at times struggling to come to terms with what was happening. So Coulson would have had a fucking seizure and just dropped to the ground after seeing a scroll or something. Obviously not now. Now he actually does deal with aliens and shit, and they have dealt with Kree on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as far as I've heard. But back then, Coulson probably wouldn't have done so well. But the de-aging technology as well, that was really well done. Like with Nick, you can hardly tell. That's aided by the fact that Samuel L. Jackson doesn't look a day past 30. Like, let's be honest, that dude is just, you know, he's fucking immortal. Like, he genuinely does not look a day older than 30, and I think that helps with the de-aging technology as well. Like all they had to do was convince us that he still had an eye, and that wasn't really that hard. Like, he wears an eye patch, but even then, like, it's probably just like makeup or something. But you know, he did. Like, he did look very convincing as a younger version of himself, I think. But I think with Phil Coulson, I think at some points, his de-aging reminded me of how Hank Pym's de-aging in the first Ant-Man movie looked. Like, you could tell, it wasn't bad, but you could tell that CGI had been done. Like, obviously CGI had been done, because, like, when you're that much older and, like, when your wrinkles are actually showing, no offense to Michael Douglas or to Clark Gregg, but when your age is actually showing, it's a lot more, like, it's going to make the CGI a lot more noticeable. And, you know, he still looked great, like, as a younger Coulson. But, you know, like, the de-aging did actually look great whenever he actually was on screen. But I do wish we got an ever so slightly larger, like a role from him. But that's why we have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I need to catch up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So yeah, but for all the people like me who've only seen most of Coulson from the Avengers and stuff, then it's a great way to kind of see him called back into this. And I don't know if there's going to be any Captain Marvel tie-in for Agents. Like, usually when a Marvel movie comes out, there is usually tie-in. Like, especially when, like, an Avengers movie comes out, and, like, even for Civil War there was tie-ins. I assume there will, like, I assume for Captain Marvel there will be a tie-in, like a reference, he says, of like a space woman or something that he ran into back in the 90s. I don't know if that's already happened, but I assume there will be some kind of tie-in for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because I think they've already been dealing with the Kree for quite a while now, for like a couple of seasons. So, you know, I think if a Captain Marvel reference hasn't already been made, then with the movie coming out now, then it might be a good time to say it. Like, you know, like I don't know if he knows about everything to do with Captain Marvel, or if he even knows about Captain Marvel herself, but I don't know. But some kind of reference might end up working. Like, or even because we know Nick Fury's actually popped up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so even if Nick pops up before his dusting, then that might also kind of work. Like, oh, the Kree? Oh, you mean those aliens that Carol once fought? But yeah, so Coulson was in it, but perhaps not for as long as we'd have liked. And I think the Star Force crew, I don't really have much to say about them. I mean, Korvath was one of them. The first we saw of him, he was working for Ronan. And there's not really like, we see Ronan in this, and he's actually helping. He is helping the Kree, and even in Guardians 1, he was like inciting Kree justice on Xandar. But in this one, we don't really see any kind of connection between him and Korvath, and we don't really see Korvath leaving Star Force to join Ronan or whatever. But even in this, neither Korvath nor Ronan are explicitly portrayed as the enemies or even as antagonists. Like, they are there to help the Kree fight the Skrulls, and that's it. But you know, like, I mean, I don't know if they deliberately left it without any connection to Guardians 1. Like, maybe that's just something that just, like, it's a minor thing that just happens off screen or something. But yeah, I mean, we just didn't really see him, like, kind of building any connection with Ronan, like, in the way that we see in Guardians 1. But yeah, I mean, Star Force was revealed to also be antagonist characters along with Yon-Rogg. And they still had the same ideals as well. And Gemma Chan was Minerva. That was great to see. And there were a bunch of other great actors who pulled off the supporting roles. So Minerva is dead. Her ship blew up. Maria blew her ship up. So Minerva's dead. I don't know about the other three. Korvath's still alive until Guardians 1. But the other two, I don't really know. I can't really remember what their status is. But yeah. But now on to the post-credit scenes. Well, before the post-credit scenes, like there is another interesting aspect that really helps connect this to the MCU that pops up fairly importantly in this movie is the Tesseract. Because Marvel was shown and said to have been experimenting with an energy core that allowed her to build the plane that Carol was test piloting, and she was also experimenting with this energy core to actually build a hyperdrive to actually get the Skrulls away from the Kree and to help them find a planet, to find a new planet and everything. The source of this energy core, the energy core wasn't the overall source of it. The overall source of the energy core was the Tesseract. And when I first saw it, I was like, wait, I know that cube from somewhere. Like, is that the same cube? That is the same cube. That's actually the Tesseract. It's a space stone. And you're like, the first time we see it, it's like, obviously the first time we see it is in Cap 1, like when the Red Skull wants it, and then it drops into the ocean. It gets fished out of the ocean by Howard Stark. So I assume that means that S.H.I.E.L.D. then has it in their possession. So then this kind of bridges a sort of gap with the Tesseract between Cap 1 and Avengers 1, because we know in Avengers S.H.I.E.L.D. still has it in their possession. So then with Captain Marvel, it's revealed that the Kree were actually working on it. And Minerva, I think, why do I keep saying Minerva? Marvel, I think it was maybe originally on Earth and she came into contact with it and then found out about its powers and its capabilities and then used it to fuel her research and to fuel her inventions. And then that's like that kind of the Tesseract. Like they refer to it as the Tesseract as well. Like Carol says, like in Marvel's notes, she referred to it as a Tesseract. So I don't know if that's the extent of it that she knows, or if she actually knows that it's an Infinity Stone, or if she even knows it's a Space Stone. But I feel like that further connects her to Endgame in the sense that, you know, when she comes along, she likely will only know that Fury is gone. Maybe not dusted or whatever, but she knows that he's been gone. So we're likely gonna have a scene where the team, or what's left of the team, are explaining what happened with Thanos and the Infinity Stones, and they're gonna give her a rundown of the Infinity Stones, and then should they show the Infinity Stones in their original form, like with the Mind Stone being in the Scepter, the Space Stone being in the Cube, the Reality Stone being in the Ether, all of that stuff, like should she see that, I feel like that's going to be the scene where she actually points out the Tesseract and says, I know that, I've actually worked with that before. So, you know, and also, since the Tesseract was actually used to power the energy core, and the energy core blowing up was what allowed Carol to absorb its powers, would that mean that the Tesseract gave her powers? Because I think Hydra's experimentation with the Mind Stones was what gave Wanda and Quicksilver their powers. So then if Marvel was experimenting with the Tesseract and created the energy core that was inside that plane, she shot like Carol shot it, and then it blew up, and then she absorbed all of that energy into it. That gave her the powers. So, I mean, I kind of assume, but I also question if that would mean that Carol got her powers from the from an Infinity Stone originally. Like if that's where her powers originated from. Maybe just. Yeah, because I think Kevin Feige did say she can move planets. Like she's so strong that she can move planets. So I mean, I assume that is with sheer strength, not just like opening a portal and then just throwing it in there. But you know, she does have a sheer amount of strength in this film as well. Like a whole battalion, a battalion of like 10 ships or something like flying at her, she takes one ship, stops it from progressing, and then throws it back at the other 9 ships, and then they all just blow up. So just like, if I can't take all of you out individually, I'll just take all of you out with one, just one, just blow up with each other. Again, badassery. So yeah, but the Tesseract does pop up in this, and that's one of the things that Goose eats. Goose eats the Tesseract from like they put it into like a Fonz lunchbox, or like a lunchbox with like the Fonz artwork. I think I've heard of the Fonz. I don't know what it is or what they are, but I've heard of them. But again, like more like 90s references. I think the 90s references in this were actually pretty well done as well. Like the music, like when Fury and Carol are going for that car ride, they've got TLC's Waterfalls. I recognize that song immediately. Like as soon as the scene cuts and it just zooms into the car, you just hear the music like get louder and louder. Like it's actually playing TLC's Waterfalls. That was a great choice. Falling into Blockbuster and then using stuff from Radio Shack to create to actually create a communication link with the Yonrog. And then what else was there? Arcade games at the bar. There was that. Oh yeah, the scene of her in the library as well, like her actually like looking up stuff, and actually like when the internet cut out and she had to like redial the mode, like that stuff. Like I would not go to the lengths of calling myself a 90s because I did not grow up in the 90s. I was born in the 90s. I was born in 1998. So I did not like have the privilege or like that kind of like, that kind of advantage of calling myself a 90s kid. I mean, I guess like up until 2001, I'd say, like from my own personal experience growing up, I'd say up until 2001, like that was when, like 2001 was when 90s stuff started kind of dying down, and then early 2000s stuff actually started popping up. But I mean, so to that extent, I did kind of grow up with some 90s stuff, but I'm not like a 90s kid in the sense that I actually grew up like, like in the whole 90s period, unfortunately. So, I mean, I could still relate to stuff because I still remember going to Blockbuster. Like Blockbusters is the reason I got into superhero movies at the time that I did. Blockbuster, like my dad, like got me the Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movie from Blockbuster. That's the reason that is the reason I got into superhero movies as early as I did. Because I remember renting out Spider-Man 1 on the VHS, that classic cassette tape. I still remember that stuff, okay? And actually having to rewind it once you finish it as well, because otherwise when the next person gets it, they just like start halfway through, or they start when the credits start rolling. So when you actually finish it, you got to rewind it all the way to the beginning and then put it back in the case and take it back to the store. God damn it! Like even just thinking about it now, it's just like nostalgia. Be a Blockbuster Video, like I definitely kind of like got hits from that, and then Radio Shack, and I think Radio Shack was exclusively an American thing. I never remembered going to Radio Shack in the UK. But there was that, and there was, what else was there? I don't know. Nothing else really comes to mind. I think, well, the black box, like the black box that Fury plays that contains the last like fragment of Carol's memory. That like it's loading up on the screen, and then like it takes like 5 seconds like taking like everyone's individual facial expressions. Then when it gets to Carol, she's just like, so what's happening? Like, why is it not working? And then Fury's just like, it's loading, it's gonna take a while. Like that kind of stuff. And like even seeing the layout of the OS, like when you have those little blue bars that go along instead of that, like it even looks older, and they actually managed to pull that off as well. So, like the 90s aspect, like they pulled it off well enough for it to pass as 90s, but not so much that that people would think that, oh, we're not watching Captain Marvel, we're watching Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. Like not so much of that, like, because they use tracks from those that kind of era, but with this, it's like the entire setting itself, like it's enough to convince you that it's 90s and stuff, which they just pulled off really well. But yeah, so that's that, the 90s theme, the Tesseract. So what else? So yeah, so the post credit scenes. So Fury's pager, as we saw at the end of Infinity War, we see it more commonly in this movie because when we see it in this movie, it is just a generic pager that he uses. It's like a generic like 90s pager, and Carol sees it and kind of like gets confirmation from Fury that it is in fact just like a generic kind of communication device. But then once she takes it off him because he inadvertently, like unintentionally, leads Skrull, Talos, and the other Skrulls to their location in the Shield base, she kind of takes it off him because it's like, oh, you obviously can't be trusted with the pager if you're just gonna be leading enemies to our location every 5 seconds. So she takes it off him, but then towards the end of the movie, she actually does give him the upgraded one with her coordinates and with her contact information that he actually uses at the end of Infinity War. And people did ask at the end of Infinity War, after seeing that, why didn't he call her for the Chitauri invasion or even for Ultron or something? She did tell him what she was going to be doing. She was going to be out looking for a new world for the Skrulls to live on, and chances are that would likely take a while because they'd have to find the right place and actually, have some form of like sustenance in terms of living there. But also, she did explicitly tell him only for emergencies. So yes, it could be argued that the Chitauri invasion of Earth was an emergency, but at the same time, it's like. I feel like Fury himself needed to know that this wasn't like a full-on end of the world situation. He needed to have the confidence to know that a team of his own making without her could still make it, and maybe make her like some kind of Omega weapon or like some kind of like last resort. Like, not because he didn't want to call her in, but because don't call her in unless you absolutely have to. Because again, she is a powerhouse, so she is stronger than all of them put together. Comparable even to Thor as well. Like her and Thor, that would be a long-lasting battle. So in that case, use what you have, and especially with Carol, she's going to be busy. So again, end of the world is a perfectly reasonable kind of reason to actually call someone back. But at the same time, it's call her for an actual proper end of the world, like the dusting. That is something that most definitely requires Captain Marvel's assistance. So. Yeah, but she did explicitly say only in emergencies, don't call me around just because you miss me or because someone's mugging you or something. Even though chances are Fury would handle a mugging perfectly fine anyway. But yeah, so the pager gets upgraded, and along with that, we see in the so spoilers from here on out. I mean, not like the rest of it wasn't spoilers, but still here. So the mid-credit scene we see is directly Endgame related, and I say Endgame related in the sense that the Ant-Man post-credit scene was directly Civil War connected. So with the Endgame post-credit scene, it shows that the Avengers, like Steve and Natasha and Bruce and Rhodes, they have their hands on the pager. They found the pager that Fury dropped whilst in New York, whilst signaling Captain Marvel. So they found that, and I don't know how they picked that up, because I don't know if they just picked up a signal and then it was. I assume it's not the kind of signal that only connects to Captain Marvel. I feel like anything else with the technology to actually detect that kind of a signal could also intercept it too. So I feel like maybe they maybe some tech in the Avengers base locked onto that signal and led the Avengers to it, and then they brought it back and found it. But in this post-credit scene, it still continues bleeping for a few seconds and then it just shuts down. So they take that to mean that maybe it's just stopped working, maybe it's shut down. But Natasha and Steve just wanted to boot it back up because they want to find out where the signal's going to and who's on the other end. Natasha especially wants to find out who's on the other end. But it starts off showing the pager shutting down, and then it shows Steve. He's still got the beard, still got the long hair and the beard, so he hasn't shaved that off yet. But Steve and Natasha are looking at a holographic globe and population statistics. Casualty statistics that are rapidly rising. So it's showing the kind of population of the world rapidly decreasing as more and more people get dusted, and also like the individual kind of casualties and like population number for like individual countries. I think the ones I remember seeing are Kenya and China. I think the one name I saw clearly was Kenya, and I think from what I remember the numbers for that were probably going up while the population count was going down, like the overall global population count. And Steve and Natasha just in a complete state of despair, like Steve saying like this is a complete nightmare, like we actually lost, but people are dying all over the world because of this. And then Natasha says, you know what, this isn't a nightmare because I've had better nightmares than this. And you realize how hopeless they really are at this point. But their one goal right now is to actually find out what kind of signal that pager is sending, where it's sending it to, and who's on the other end. So like they're like Rhodes and Bruce and Steve and Natasha, they're all crowding around it. So and then Natasha's last line is, boot up that pager again and please just find out who's on the other end because I need to know. And as soon as she turns around, Carol Danvers is there. Brie Larson does kind of somehow like teleport down to the Avengers base, and her first question, where the fuck is Fury? So, it's not as like explicit, but where is Fury? That's her one and only question. And she's also donning a new suit as well. Like it's not as, it definitely doesn't look like the same suit she was wearing in like Captain Marvel, because obviously the post credit scene is going on in the present day. But in it's like it definitely looks a lot shinier and a lot glossier, and where you could actually see like the accents and the lines actually like embezzled out of the suit, and the star itself embezzled out of the suit. In this new suit, it's actually a part of the fabric itself, so it's a lot flatter and it's a lot shinier. So I feel like that's the new suit we're gonna see her in coming up into Endgame. So that's gonna be cool. But we have Carol and Natasha interacting. Well, very barely interacting, but I am looking forward to seeing my girls in a femme fatale type group, because we still have women alive. We still have Valkyrie alive. We have Okoye alive. Shuri is missing. So that confuses me, because I think from the Endgame trailer, it showed the people who are missing, like not just dead. So Scott, that makes sense because they didn't know where he was, so like they hadn't heard from him. But I don't really think they found a pile of dust for him either. So I think they just assumed he was missing along with the others. But he's back. But Shuri, because I remember Letitia Wright saying that her and Queen Ramonda survived. They survived the snap, but then the trailer shows Shuri. I mean, it could be a trick, like how they showed Hulk in the Avengers Infinity War trailer, but then he wasn't even in the movie for more than 5 minutes, so it could be a trick that, oh yeah, Shuri's alive. But if it is, then she also has to face the loss of her brother as well, which is just going to be heartbreaking. But yeah, they're alive, so, but like, the femme fatale duo we could have, the femme fatale group we could have, like Okoye, Carol, and Natasha, and Pepper. She's going to be suiting up as Rescue. That's going to be fucking badass to see. So we have all these women coming together to fight again. We had it in Infinity War with Okoye and Natasha versus Proxima. So now we can have it again with even more women coming to join the fray. So yeah, but that is cool. I mean, Carol Nat, come on. We got to get some of that. But that was a cool. That just got me hyped up for Endgame. That just got me, because that's like new, like official new footage. I mean, they might change it up somehow with like dialogue or like different takes or different angle or something. But either way, it's new Endgame footage. I'm hyped like for that alone. But I honestly have no idea how I'm gonna handle Endgame at all. Because I barely survived the trailer, and apparently from the test screenings that have been conducted for Endgame, people have fainted. People have fainted during all 4 test screenings that have been launched for Endgame. So I've already told my friends this. I'm gonna have like an ambulance and a stretcher on standby, because chances are, as soon as someone dies in Endgame, I'm gonna die. So, or at least I'm gonna pass out. So yeah, I'm just gonna have like a stretcher on standby, and like my friends are just gonna roll me out as soon as it happens. I'm just gonna be comatose or some shit. But yeah, but I am super stoked to see how Carol actually comes in and whoops ass in Endgame, and actually beats her badass self. And seeing her getting along with Natasha should be fun too. But I am seriously excited to see my girls in Endgame. But yes, that was Fury's pager one, and I mean, she's likely gonna have to explain where she was during the Chitauri invasion of New York, and how she knows Fury, and how she like if that page is hers and everything. So that's going to be a fun scene to watch as well. But then her actually getting to know the Avengers and being a hero alongside them, and actually maybe since Age of Ultron's ending was new members coming into the Avengers, Carol could join the Avengers at the end of Endgame as well. You know, like the Avengers Reborn, like I was saying, until Marvel went along and revealed it as Endgame. You know, like the Avengers Reborn as a new members. But yeah, but anyway, that was that post-credit scene. But this wasn't necessarily a post-credit scene, but this was an ending to the film, like one of Fury's last scene in the film that I really enjoyed, and that was him coming up with the Avengers Initiative, because that proves the theory I had. Anyone who watched, I think it was my reaction to the second trailer or the final trailer for Captain Marvel, but I had a theory for Captain Marvel. I did have a theory for Captain Marvel that was proven right in this movie, that Carol is the reason Fury draws up the Avengers Initiative. She is the reason that he comes up with this idea for a group of remarkable people to come together to become something more and to fight the battles that S.H.I.E.L.D. never could. Because he even explicitly says, you know, we need some kind of team to come together to fight the battles that S.H.I.E.L.D. can't. That S.H.I.E.L.D. can't fight alone. And you know, we see him typing it up, and you know, we see him coming up with like the Protector Initiative, and like trying to come up with some name for it. And then that's a funny scene as well, because because we see how he has like a makeshift eye patch, and then like Coulson comes in with like this box of like glass eyes and stuff for him to look at and test out. And he even leaves the room saying, you know, like, you know, boss, you should probably sleep, because you know you got a big decision tomorrow, got to choose a new eyeball for yourself. So that was cool. He doesn't go with the glass eye, obviously he goes with a badass leather black eye patch. But yeah, that happens, and then I think so that scene is showing him actually coming up with the pitch, or at least like the draft of the reason they need the Avengers, but he just can't come up with a name for it. He knows the idea for it, but he just can't come up with a name. And then the even cooler moment that I was just squealing in my chair for. I was just squealing in my chair after and just shaking with. He looks at a picture of he looks at the same picture like the same picture Carol discovers of how she knows Maria and how she's connected to Maria, of her like climbing into a plane. Like Fury has that case file, so he looks at the same picture, and on the side of the plane, on the side of Carol's plane, like, you know how you have with like with Air Force pilots, you have their name and their nickname written on it. Captain Carol Avenger Danvers. So he comes up with the Avenger from her nickname. So that's how he comes up with Avengers Initiative. So technically, so not only is she the reason for the Avengers exist, but she is also like technically the first Avenger. So, you know, not trying to like devalue Steve or like try and undermine him in any way. You know, Captain America the first Avenger, but technically speaking, she is kind of the first Avenger because she's the reason the Avengers exists. Because, you know, obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. would know about Captain America, and like, you know, Coulson did call him the world's first superhero in the Avengers. But still, with Captain Marvel, it was further proof. But people thought Cap was dead before he was even thought out. So with this, like, Captain Marvel is the next big captain that Fury knows. So she is the reason. And even like as he looks at the picture and sees Captain Carol Avenger Danvers like written on the side of the plane, as he goes to type it up, you can hear that music kicking in. You can hear that. You can actually hear the music kicking in, and actually as he types it up, you don't see it on the screen. Like, you don't see the Avengers Initiative because you already know it's going to be that. But you know, he smiles as he types it in, and he actually like finishes up the report and everything, and you can just hear the music kicking in. Like, yeah, this is it. This is where the Avengers are born. So he couldn't call. I feel like that was another reason that he couldn't call Carol back as well. Like, he couldn't call her back just to join up with the just to say yes to the Avengers or anything like that. But he did kind of use her heroics as inspiration to actually craft this kind of response team. So he couldn't actually recruit for it immediately. But then fast forward to 2008, Tony Stark is born as Iron Man. So he is now he can come forward with the Avengers Initiative. That's where that iconic post-credit scene actually comes into full-on play. Like, you know, son, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative, co-created by Carol Danvers, somewhere up there, just kicking ass and saving ass. So, yeah, time to join the super secret boy band. But that scene, I felt so good having my theory proved right with that, but it also just felt really cool seeing the way that scene was constructed and seeing that, you know, Carol is the real birth of the Avengers and she's the reason the Avengers exists, and she gave Fury that kind of idea and that kind of initiative to actually create the initiative as well. But the music kicking in did it all for me as well. The music was just the icing on the cake. It was just the icing on the cake. But yeah, so it proves further on that, you know, she will become an Avenger in the future. So Fury will likely come forward to her as well, saying, "Carol, I need to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. You know, I created it because of you, but still, I need to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative." But yeah, that is pretty much all I have written down for the spoiler talk review of this. But I mean, I feel like there is some stuff I'm missing out on, or some stuff I maybe like misinterpreted. But again, it's my first viewing, so there is some stuff that's still kind of vague in my head, some stuff that I still don't fully understand. But you know, I've talked about it as best as I can. But overall, I love this movie. I really did, and I think this really paves the way for a lot more. Because I think even Kevin Feige did say that like the first three phases of the MCU has always been, besides from Asgard and the quantum realm with Ant-Man, it's always been very, very grounded. It's always been very, very Earth-based and human-based and everything. But we're moving forward with Phase 4, movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, movies like Captain Marvel, and like the Eternals coming up as well. Like that, he said Phase 4 and onwards is going to be a very, like Phase 4 as a whole is going to be a very cosmic kind of stepping stone. They're going to step further out into the universe and bring in more like celestial and like intergalactic kind of heroes and whatnot. So I think this gives them a very, very definite kind of like this movie gives them a lot of faith that a movie like that could work, and it will work. So you know, that kind of it definitely paves the way for movies like Fantastic Four and X-Men. Because that deal is meant to be finalized by this summer, so like, we know how the X-Men, we know how the Fantastic Four are born with the radiation cloud in outer space that gives them their powers. So that definitely kind of can come into play once they actually start doing more like cosmic movies. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like even in general, like again, like given that this is the first official purely female-led superhero film, this definitely paves the way for a lot more of that. And we have the Black Widow solo film coming as well. Like, I've been hearing nothing but good news about that film. Like, they got, I think they got like a female director. I think, as far as I've heard, they've got a female director for it. And I think the last I heard, they had a female writer for it as well. But I think I heard something about that being changed and someone else coming in to actually rewrite it. But they've done that, and they've got like the stunt coordinator from John Wick to do that shit. They've got a short list of great female actors to be like a co-female lead for Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow. Nothing but good news I'm hearing about that movie, so I am very excited to see that one as well. I think that one's going to be coming up in like 2020 or 2021 or something, but that I feel like is definitely going to be a Phase 4 movie. But Marvel's Black Widow, that is a movie I can get into. That is a movie I can definitely get up for. But yeah, I mean, I think for some people it might be the movie. Like, I mean, I feel like that alone, that as well, it's not going to be like too much of a superhero movie. It's going to be like, I think from what I've heard, it's going to be set during the Cold War, so it's going to be like, it's going to be a superhero movie in the same way that Captain America: The Winter Soldier was a superhero movie. Like, it's going to be like based on like political espionage and whatnot, but it's still going to have that superhero element to it, and I feel like it's going to have that same kind of like grounded, gritty feel to it that Cap 2 Winter Soldier had for it. So that's going to be something else to look forward to as well. But again, this movie, like the same way Black Panther did, this movie paves the way for a whole lot more of like a more diverse kind of range of movies within the MCU, and just a whole wider kind of grasp of like what kind of stories and what kind of characters they can actually bring up to the screen. And like what kind of characters they can actually show us on the screen as well. So, you know, again, just nothing but respect and admiration and love for Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, just doing such an amazing job bringing us Captain Marvel. Looking forward to a second screening of it, but more importantly, looking forward to seeing her whooping ass, and more specifically whooping Thanos' ass in Avengers Endgame, and seeing how she gets along with the other Avengers. But yeah, so loved Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. Loved seeing Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury again. Loved seeing everyone else as everyone else. But loved this movie as well. Just everything. I personally loved pretty much everything about this movie. There might be some little flaws I have, but it doesn't ruin the plot or the characters or the story for me in any way. Like, it's still a movie that I very, very thoroughly enjoyed. Easily one of my top 5 favorite MCU movies as well. So, you know, it's just, I mean, I might be too easy to please in this case. I might be a little bit biased because I've been overly excited for this movie before it came out. But in my defense, I went into this movie being open-minded and excited. And I definitely wasn't underwhelmed, you know. I was, like, it exceeded my expectations, and I definitely wasn't underwhelmed. So it was definitely, like, a very, very good watch for me, and I'd happily watch it again. But, you know, if people didn't like it because they didn't really like the story or the character, then that's fine. I mean, as long as they're actually well-founded reasons for not liking it, and not the kind of press tour controversy that went on, which was just stupid anyway. But yeah, that is pretty much all I have for this one. So again, definitely looking forward to Brie Larson showing up in Endgame as Carol again. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So that was my official spoiler talk review for Marvel Studios Captain Marvel. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, then salt and burn that like button. Comment on what you thought of the movie, now free with all spoilers. And if there's anything I missed out, then feel free to let me know about that as well. But yeah, that is it. So I will see you guys next time. And higher, further, faster, baby.